Welcome, Dungeon Hackers. Today we are going to talk about campaign world building. I love world building, and if you're anything like me, creating the greater world and the cities and the maps and everything is one of the things that brings you the most joy in being the dungeon master in D&D. But creating an entire world is a huge task, but there's some tools we can use that will help us take a little bite out of that task and make it a little bit easier to do. Today, we're diving into Azgaar's Fantasy Map Generator. This is a powerful, free tool that you can use to help revolutionize your D&D world building. I'm not sponsored by Azgaar's, however, I love the product, and if you would like to sponsor me, and you're watching this video, let me know. I'll have a link to the tool down in the description below so that you can download it and play with it yourself. So let's take a look at what it looks like when you first open the application. When you first open the application, you're going to see a world generated randomly for you. You can change it to always bring back the same world that you've been working on, but we'll take a look at that later. First, let's look at some basic things that we can do within the map. The first one is that you can zoom in by using the mouse wheel. So if we want to zoom in up here on this small country, we can zoom in with the wheel. And you can see as you get closer, it gives you more detail. You can see trade routes for ships, roads, borders, rivers, and much more as you zoom in further and add new layers. Let's take a look at how you can change things if the map isn't to your liking right away. First, you can click on one of these labels, and it allows you to change how it looks and what it says. This first button here lets you edit the name. And you'll also notice that down at the bottom of the screen here, it shows you exactly what these different options do. But you can edit the label, you can change the style of the label. In here you can change the color of things, you can change the font, the size of each individual label. You can also change the font size directly here, the spacing, and the straight line. If you grab one of these dots, you can change it to be an arc like this if that's what you want and still move it around. You can move these other points to also make it an arc or stretch it out one way or the other. And this lets you put the label wherever you want it, however you want it to look. Next, let's take a look at one of the cities and see how we can edit those. We'll zoom in on this city right here, Abutman. Now, when you first click on a city, you'll notice that it has the city's name, what type of city it is, the culture there, the population, average temperature, elevation, all kinds of information. And you'll even see a window down here with a small map of the city. This is generated by another application that we may talk about in a different video that I'm going to call Whatabow. I'm not entirely sure how to pronounce it, but that's how it's spelled, so that's how I say it. And you can go to a larger version of the map by clicking on this arrow here. Of course, it opened in a different window, but here it is. Now, what other things can we do here? Well, we see that it currently is a harbor. This star will denote whether or not it's the capital of the province, whether or not it has a castle, whether it has walls, a marketplace, a religious center, or a shanty town. Now you can make changes to it directly here. Suppose we wanted a citadel of some type, we can click this button and it will regenerate it with the citadel right there in the middle. Let's say it's also got walls. Now you've got walls that go around the majority of the city. The citadel's still there. You'll notice that it even matches up with the map, how it's on the coast with the coast to the southeast of the town. You can edit the style here as well. You can change the emblem, as each city will have its own. You can toggle the preview of the city on and off. You can zoom the map and center on the burg. You can relocate it, and you can add text about it. So now we can say, this city is ruled by a council of wizards. And when we close it down and hover over it, it puts that up there for us to see so that we know what is happening in that city. If you're wondering, like me, how to pronounce it, they've got this button here that you can click that will pronounce it for you.
Abutum.
And if you don't like it, you can always change the name.
Steve's Town.
But what if it's not the information about the city that you want to change, but the actual map around Steve's Town? Well, you can do that as well, simply by clicking on the things that you want to change. Let's say we want to change this road. I click on the road, and then I've got these points that I can drag these points around, and it will change where the road goes. The same goes for the coastline. If you click on a coastline, it gives you these points that you can take and drag the coastline around to change the coastline. So those are the basics of how you can create a basic map and then alter information about it, change information about the cities, and even alter the coastlines and roads and rivers. But what if you want to see more information about the world than just where the cities and towns and roads are, but more about the cultures and religions? Well, we can take a look at the Layers tab, and it gives you all kinds of other information that you can show. You can see that currently we're only showing the rivers, the states, the borders, routes, some ice, labels, icons, but we could also show the texture. Gives you a little bit of a look as to how the texture of the world is, where there's mountains and stuff. You can click on the height map, and it gives you a heat map of the height of everything. So you can see the different heights. Here it's 12,000 feet high, whereas down here along the coast, it would be just sea level. You can look at the biomes. Up here we have a deciduous forest, but if we come down here, we get tundra, glaciers, we've even got grasslands. You can have deserts and mountains. Everything can appear in here. If we look at the cells, this shows each of the individual cells as we see when we're editing, so you can get an idea of what each section looks like. If you want it on a hex map, you can add hexes to it. You can get coordinates with a square grid. If you click on the relief button, it'll show you the hills and forests and things like that. And you can see over here, you get mountains. If you look at religions, it'll show you the dominant religion in each of the areas. Here they worship certain spirits. Down here in the Birdian theocracy, it's the Bird Church. And up here, it's the Angshire gods. You can show the different cultural regions and even different provinces within each different state. Zones show you different things that are happening in the world. There's a crusade going on here, whereas over here, there's a Birdian invasion and even an eruption from a volcano down here. If you click on temperatures, it gives you the average temperatures. Population gives you these bars that as you zoom in, you can get an idea of where the high population centers are. Similarly, you can see precipitation totals. You can see all the emblems of the different countries and provinces. And it'll even show you military might. If we zoom in over here, we can see the 12th Bergazi Regiment and what kind of soldiers make it up, which is right across the border from the 15th Regiment of Silesia, and what makes them up. All of this is editable in the same fashion as everything else that we've edited in the past. You can change the different kinds of units in here. You can change the emblem and even the name. You can split it into two separate groups, attach it to another group, and be able to track battles across kingdoms. There are markers all over the world. You can see here there is a volcano that we learned earlier is just now erupting. Over here we have camel migration. Up in this city there's a fair going on and a random encounter here. You can see that just like they populate each city, they also link to a tool that populates NPCs. And finally, here on the layers, you can use a ruler to determine distance. To get from the border to the lake would be 506 miles. Finally, two more options down at the bottom is the view mode, and you can look at it as a 3D scene to perhaps give you a better idea of what the actual topography looks like. And you can see what it would look like on a globe. You can take the globe and rotate it and look around and see what it looks like. Then you can export it, save it, load a map you've already done, or reset the zoom back to where you started, which is where we are now. Next, we'll take a look at the Style tab. Now, the Style tab we saw earlier when we were looking at editing a city. You can decide what it is that you're trying to change the style of. And then you can choose the opacity. So now we've made the state names clear of whatever it is that you're trying to do. You can change the fill color and the stroke color, the stroke width, the letter spacing. You can change the font and the text size. And of course, you still have all these save and load options at the bottom. Next is the Options tab. The Options tab is what allows you to be able to generate a map specifically how you want it to be. So if we look over here, you'll see that you can decide the canvas size and the map seed, which aren't things I would mess around with very often. The points number, a higher point number will create perhaps a more detailed map, whereas a lower number would produce a less detailed map. However, they do suggest that 10,000 is the only recommended value. You can put in your map name, and if you don't like it, you can change it yourself or have it randomly generate a new one for you. You can set the year and the era. And then next we have the height map. This is what allows you to generate a certain kind of map. Perhaps we want a low island, no high mountains anywhere, and we say select a new map. And now we have an island that doesn't have any mountains and is much lower to the water. We could also say, no, we just want a bunch of small islands and click New Map. And it'll do that. And if we don't like this one, we can again click New Map. And it will continue generating us new maps with whatever settings we currently have. You can set the number of cultures that you want. You can change the culture set to be whatever kinds of cultures that you would like to have in there. You can select the number of states, the province ratio, the size variety, the growth rate. This will show how quickly different cultures grow and defines how many lands will stay neutral. The number of towns. Currently it's set to auto, but you can change it to any number that you want. So if you want a less populated map, you can change the total number of towns, different number of religions, and the state labels are currently on auto, but you can say short names or full names. And then just some things that have to do with the style within the tool itself. Theme color, transparency, autosave interval, what it does on load. This is where we have it generate a map. However, you can have it open your last saved map, and this way, every time you open it, it'll open to the map that you've been working on. Whether it shows the assistance information, and you can select the speaker's voice. I have chosen English Male, UK English Male, because all of the standard Microsoft ones sounded pretty much awful. You can have the emblem shape be culture specific, so everybody within a certain culture will have a similarly shaped emblem, and you can set the zoom and the rendering. You can also click on Configure World, and make adjustments directly in here to your world as a whole. Currently it's showing everything in the center, but you could say, I just want whatever I'm making to be in the northern hemisphere or the southern hemisphere or in the tropical region. Right now we'll just set it at northern so that it only gives us a map of the northern hemisphere. Update world, and now if we create a new map with our new settings, we can see that it has created us a new map, and if we zoom in, there are far less cities than there were in the previous one. We can also go back to the layers and look at the globe, and it should just be on the northern hemisphere because that's all we told it to do. Next we go to the Tools tab. In the Tools tab, it allows you to edit different parts of the map from a list. So if we look at the bergs, for example, it gives us a list of all the cities within the map that we've created. You can scroll through by currently population, but let's go ahead and order it by berg, and you can scroll through and take a look at all of them. You can edit the name directly in the builder, or you can come and edit it right here, and we get the same edit menu that we've seen before. But this is a way that you can take a look at all of the bergs for a single state, for example, or for a specific culture. You can group them all together and then be able to make edits to those cities in particular without having to search on them and click on them all throughout the map itself. Now you can edit the cultures this way. Diplomacy shows how everybody feels about other people. Emblems, height map, markers. This gives us a list of all the markers that exist. Allows you to add new markers. So if there's something going on in your campaign that you want to add specifically, you can do that, or edit existing markers. Military, name base, notes, provinces, religions, rivers, routes, states, units, and zones. Those are all things that you can edit. You can also, if you just want to wholesale make changes, you can regenerate things. For example, if we click on bergs, regeneration will remove all custom changes for the element. Are you sure you want to proceed? Make sure that you actually want to do what you're saying you're doing. But you can do that for cultures, emblems, all these different items here. Also, if you want to add something, you can add a berg, a label, a marker, a route, or a river. Let's go in and add our own marker. We'll put one right here. So now it gives us a default question mark. We can select a different symbol if we want to. Let's go with the skull and crossbones. We can change the size of it, perhaps to indicate how dangerous it is or how well known it is maybe. You can shift the icon left or right or up and down. You can even change the shape of the icon itself if you want something a little different. Finally, you can show cells and charts. So if you look at specific sections on the map, you can see that they have the latitude, longitude, what zone it's in, how big that section is, what type it is, populations, rivers, all kinds of information about this area that you are pointing to on the map. You can also see charts that will show whatever information you're interested in. This one shows us the population of each of the states, but you can select a lot of different items for which to see charts. And finally, you can create a submap of a specific area. So if you were to make a submap of this area here, it would regenerate the map using just this area in a much more detailed fashion. So now it's created us a new map with more detail in the rivers, and we are currently zoomed all the way out on this submap. As you zoom in, you can see that you'll be able to see that there is more information in the details of the coastlines and stuff. So this allows you to create a submap of an area where the party may be going and add a bunch of markers to it without having to add a bunch of markers to your entire world map. So that's Azgaar's fantasy map generator. I often use it just for fun sometimes and come in and create maps and play around with the settings. The area where my players are currently at, I have a lot of details within the map and a lot of markers and several submaps as well. The tool itself links to a lot of other tools that will dynamically create things for you. We saw the city generator from Whatabow. We saw the NPC generator. If you click on a dungeon somewhere, it will even take you to a one-page dungeon creator. This allows you to quickly put together your world, but also allows you to edit whatever it is that you want within it. If you're really adventurous, you could actually build the entire map from scratch by just starting with a blank space and adding coastlines wherever you want and borders and rivers and cities to exactly your specifications. So let me know in the comments below if you've ever used a tool like this before, or this tool in particular. If you've used a different tool to create your world, I'd love to hear about it in the comments, so let me know there. Otherwise, like and subscribe, and we will continue making more videos, so come back and check us out next time we hack the dungeon.